Okay, so anyway, Karpov declined the sacrifice after knight takes h6, and what he played was c3, which was the strongest move in the position, which is threatening now to take the knight on h6 and also seemingly gain a tempo and the initiative, because the bishop should move now. But now came knight f5, which was typical of Kasparov, who perhaps more than any other player emphasized the importance of having the initiative and a good position instead of worrying about losing material, because now of course comes c takes b2, and now Kasparov is a piece and a pawn down. But despite Karpov having a dangerous pass pawn on b2, he does have a lot of compensation for the material deficit after queen g4, and the fact that this move makes Fritz's assessment of the position jump all over the place is a clear indication that Kasparov was up to his old tricks of creating complications. In any case, the strength of White's attack definitely compensates for being down in material, and the pressure that he is applying to his opponent, as we saw in the last game, makes it nearly impossible not to go wrong, which Karpov did immediately with the bishop c8. Fritz preferred the defense g6, where after rook e2, queen d7, which is best play, White still has the advantage, but only very slightly, and nowhere near as much as in the game continuation. Because after bishop c8 comes queen h4, which ensures winning the exchange because rook h6 is forced as a defense. If instead king g8, then the quiet move king h2 gives White a winning advantage. Best play continues g6, knight g5, threatening mate on h7, and rook a7 is the best way to defend against it. But now comes knight takes e6, bishop takes e6, knight h6 check, bishop takes h6, queen takes h6, rook g7, bishop takes g6, and White is easily winning. Black's only hope, like his best move, is to queen his pawn, but now comes bishop takes b1, and after rook takes g3, f takes g3. The king at White's mercy, not to mention the bishop here on e6. It's game over. Fritz gives an advantage of 9 pawns to White. So rook h6 and knight takes h6, and now White has the advantage in every continuation. G takes h6 is what Karpov played, and now again that quiet move king h2 happened in the game, with the strong threat of knight takes d6, which would lead to mate. And as I said, White is easily winning here, and the pressure was too much for Karpov, and he didn't find the best defense but played queen e5. Better here was the unusual looking bishop g4, when after queen takes g4 and queen f7, White is still winning, but his attack is not quite so crushing. So queen e5. And here Kasparov played another brilliant move. If you want to try and spot it, then stop the video now. Okay, what he played was knight g5, which is an incredible move and the best in the position by far. Taking the rook loses immediately. If queen takes h1 or e1, sorry, then knight f7 is mate. And after knight g5 is played, Karpov has to find a piece for his square, and a square for his queen, and that ensures that Kasparov keeps a lethal initiative. Queen f6 is what Karpov played, but he really should have resigned at this stage. I guess it was the World Championships and he wasn't going to give in too easily, and plus he has the passed pawn for counterplay if he can ever fight off this attack. But now comes another great move from Kasparov. If you want to try and spot it again, then stop the video now. Rook e8 is an absolute game winner, with dangerous threats of mate by queen takes h6 if black does nothing about it. For example, if a5, then queen takes h6 check, and queen takes h6 is the only move, and then knight to f7 is mate. So bishop f5 is what Karpov played to defend, but it's losing, and now there's a forced mate in 6 moves that Kasparov missed, in fact, with knight to f7 check, and queen takes f7 is forced. If instead king h7 and queen takes f6, knight takes f6, bishop takes f5 is mate. So queen takes f7, queen takes h6 check, bishop h7, rook takes a8, and black has a move to try and bring more pieces back to defend, but there's no stopping white's attack. Now it's mate in 3, no matter what black plays. Say for example if knight f6, then rook takes f8 check, queen takes f8, queen takes f8 check, bishop g8, and queen takes f6 is mate. So bishop f5, and Kasparov missed that, the force mate, and what he played was queen takes h6 check, and this ensures him a massive and easily winning advantage. 16 pawns up now, according to Fritz, and I'm sure he would have found the mating line if he thought about it for long enough. But regardless, this move is the beginning of a great combination that still ensures the win, because after queen takes h6, which is the only move to avoid mate, now comes knight to f7 check, king h7, the only move, and now bishop takes f5 check, forces queen g6, and now bishop takes g6 check, king g7, the only move that avoids mate. If instead king g8, then comes a mate in 6 with knight h6 check, king g7, bishop e4, discovered check from the rook, king takes h6, rook to e6 check, knight f6, rook takes f6 check, king h5, bishop f3 check, king h4, and rook f4 is mate. So king g7 and rook takes a8, and again Karpov should resign here despite being able to win the knight, because if he queens his pawn, then bishop takes and king takes, he'll still be 2 exchanges and a pawn down. He tried bishop e7, and it came rook b8 and a5 to defend that. Sorry, not to defend the knight, but just to free the movement of this knight. And if instead, queening, then bishop takes b1, king takes f7 and f4, with an easily winning advantage for white. Like I said, he's 2 exchanges up and he's got 3 connected passed pawns. So a5 and bishop e4 check from the rook, king takes f7, bishop d5 check, and Karpov finally resigns, because after knight takes d5, rook takes b2, his only glimmer of hope is gone, and there was no way for him to hold on to the pawn. If he hadn't taken the bishop and moved his king after bishop takes d5 check, say if king f6, then rook b3, amongst other things, stops the pawn from queening and results in a winning endgame. So it was a brilliant game from Kasparov. I'll replay it with the threatened squares highlighted just so you can see it from start to finish. So it was a Roux Lopez, and he was very versatile with his openings, Kasparov. That was another thing that was brilliant about him. He'd play brilliantly against the Sicilian, or playing the Sicilian himself, or playing d4, e4, anything. He was the real deal. And it was very instructive the way that black's passed pawns, that he created the, I guess you could call them poison pawns. I mean, the creation of them was, it was poison. And it's incredible that Karpov fell into that trap, because he was notorious for declining sacrifices, like I said. But you see there these 2 pawns, who's going to turn down the possibility of creating connected passed pawns? Not many people. but it ignores the threats of the position. Look at all these pieces moving in on the black king, and all these pieces on the back rank completely passive, and Kasparov's pieces very active. And he was a great advocate of sacrificing pawns or pieces in order to get initiative. That's what he said was more important than anything else, initiative. And then there was the final game winning combination. It's a temporary queen sacrifice, as we saw in the last game as well against Kramnik. And now it's just completely lost for black. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave any comments or thoughts. Thanks very much.